Hello and welcome to Newsfeed, your daily dose of what people are talking about online, from news stories to what's trending. Now, remember when NFTs were all the rage last year? And of course, you had that one friend who just couldn't shut up about how rich they were going to be from all the digital art they'd bought. Well, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but the bubble seems to have burst. Okay, maybe not completely, but demand has plummeted by a lot. According to data website Non-Fungible, NFT sales have dropped to a daily average of 22,000. That's a 90% decline from a peak of 225,000 in September. And the average price of an NFT has dropped to just under $1,000, a far cry from when the digital collectibles were at times being sold for $1 million a pop. Now, if you're baffled by what I'm talking about, here's a quick TikTok primer into NFTs.
I'm going to explain exactly what an NFT is, like we're fifth graders, in under 60 seconds using the Mona Lisa as an example. NFT stands for non-fungible token, and this is where people get confused, but all non-fungible means is that it's unique, one of a kind, and cannot be interchanged. As we all know, the Mona Lisa is a one-of-a-kind art piece, and imagine you own the NFT Mona Lisa. You have the digital deed, which shows that you are the rightful owner of this NFT Mona Lisa. And that digital deed is known as a smart contract. There is public proof that you are the sole owner of this NFT Mona Lisa because this smart contract lives on the public record keeping system called the blockchain. People can screenshot or right-click save as much as they want, but it doesn't matter because you own the NFT Mona Lisa.
Sounds pretty simple, huh, when it's broken down like that? Well, unfortunately, many NFT owners now find their investments are worth a lot less than when they initially bought them. Now, this is partly due to the crypto slide. The prices of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the wider crypto market have fallen significantly in the past few weeks. But that's not the sole reason. Since demand for digital art has declined, so has its value. NFTs are a purely speculative asset. In simple terms, demand drives up their price. Now, we spoke to Jason Bailey, better known in the digital world as Art Gnome, about why the slump is happening right now. He's the founder of ClubNFT.com, a company that builds tools to protect NFTs and ownership.
The majority of the drop-off that we see in the NFT space is really tied to overhyped collectibles. So in 2021, with all the press and interest, people kind of came running in and a lot of times invested in projects that were promising things through roadmaps that never really manifested. And those of us that have been in the space for a while saw that and realized that it was a problem, but it was really hard to kind of do anything about it. What is sort of heartening is that a lot of those folks that came in initially not knowing what they were doing and maybe, jumped into these poorly planned out collectibles projects, now that they understand the space a little bit better, I'm starting to see some of them come over to the more community-oriented art side, where there's actually more substance behind the art and the NFTs that are being created. So on the whole, it may look like things are kind of trending down, but I think they're trending down away from hype-oriented projects and starting to trend up based on art that actually has some substance and collectors that are a little bit more informed now.
Okay, so the outlook doesn't look so grim for NFTs, but one thing that is a cause for concern is security. Just this past weekend, Bored Ape Yacht Club was hacked again. $360,000 worth of NFTs were stolen in the phishing attack. The hack was confirmed on Bored Ape Yacht Club's official Twitter. Bored Ape is one of the most popular and sought-after NFT collections. The company was hacked in April too, when $2.8 million worth of NFTs were stolen. Then there's the issue of security at NFT marketplaces. OpenSea, the world's largest such marketplace, has faced a lot of criticism for security flaws that scammers can easily exploit. Some customers say OpenSea hasn't been doing enough to prevent theft and fraud, and multiple lawsuits have been filed against the marketplace. Now, part of the problem is that OpenSea is the embodiment of the Web3 world. It sees itself as a self-serve gateway to a loosely regulated market. But users increasingly want the company to act more like a traditional business by compensating fraud victims and cracking down on theft. Here's Jason Bailey again on how to better protect yourself in Web3.
But it's important to recognize that phishing actually goes back long before NFTs and blockchain. So that's really not so much a vulnerability of the technology, and it's more about people being educated and understanding how to protect their collections and their own personal information. So the way to do that actually is pretty simple. You want to make sure that you have two wallets, a hot wallet, we call it, and a cold wallet. So the cold wallet is where you actually store your collection and the majority of your cryptocurrency, and you don't ever connect using that cold wallet to any of the marketplaces. You never give permissions or access to it. Instead, you use your hot wallet, which you only keep just enough currency in to make purchases and transactions with. That way you're protecting your collection and the majority of your currency from any potential phishing attacks. I think NFTs have a great future. Now that we've kind of shaken off the hype from 2021, it allows a lot of us that are really excited about building the infrastructure around NFTs to make it a more mature system. It kind of grew a little bit too fast.
And that's what a lot of analysts say, that the NFT world grew a little too fast before the technology could catch up. And as file systems and marketplaces try to play catch up, what you can do if you own NFTs is store the bulk of your collection in a cold wallet. Those can't be hacked since they're offline. In other words, they can't be connected to the net. And while such hardware is protected from things like phishing attacks, you still have to make sure they don't get stolen in the real world. So cold wallet, hot wallet, it seems like no solution is 100% safe for your digital art or coins. You just have to take your chances in Web3. Imagine you're about to board a flight for a much anticipated holiday. Now, traveling is already pretty stressful, trying to make it to the airport on time, hoping my baggage isn't overweight. And then you're hit with a language test. Sounds pretty absurd, right? But that's exactly what Ryanair has introduced for South African passengers. The test covers South African general knowledge and is entirely in Afrikaans, the language imposed during white minority rule. Today, it's one of South Africa's 11 official languages, but it's only the third most spoken mother tongue. So of course, there are questions as to why the airline chose Afrikaans over the country's more widely spoken languages. Afrikaans is the first language of only 13% of the population. South Africa's black majority views it as the language of the oppressor that they were forced to learn in school during apartheid. Ryanair says the test aims to tackle the problem of what it says is a high prevalence of fraudulent South African passports. But obviously, people on social media aren't buying that explanation and have accused the airline of racism and discrimination. Gundo Mawela from Johannesburg shares these images of the Ryanair test. Mawela also tagged the South African Foreign Ministry and asked whether it's aware. Fred Ray Bolt shared a graph showing languages that are widely spoken in South Africa, and you can clearly see here where Afrikaans ranks. He then called Ryanair's test pretty racist. And aviation analyst Alex Macheras tweets that the airline forcing people to complete the test is categorically insane and discriminatory.
Michael O'Leary, CEO of Ryanair. Would you ask an Israeli Arab to write a Hebrew test to prove his nationality? Would you ask a Ukrainian national to write a Russian test? After all, they come from countries which have multilingual backgrounds. Now, only 13% of the South African population actually speak Afrikaans, and even a lower percentage read and write it. Proportionately, although there are many English-speaking white people who would not pass the Afrikaans test, proportionately, more white people would be able to get on your planes than black people from South Africa. It's time for an apology. It's time to rethink your policy.
All right, on to what the internet is talking about. Fox quote news is trending online as netizens poke fun at the network, claiming that it's not really a news channel. The conservative broadcaster says it won't be airing live the hearings into the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Instead, the main anchors will move to another Fox channel, the Business Network, and cover the hearings there. Of course, netizens are outraged. Author Amy Siskin calls the channel anti-democratic propaganda. But prominent Democratic fundraiser John Cooper takes the name-calling a step further. He says all of the channel's executives, reporters, and anchors are gutless, hypocritical, and deceitful propagandists who are traitors to the United States. Now, this picture seems pretty innocuous, a man and a woman and some cake. But it's landed one of China's top live streamers, Li Jiaqi, in trouble with his government. The screenshots were from Li's last live stream, which ended abruptly for no reason. And by the way, the cake in question was shaped like a tank. The live stream was on June 3rd, the eve of the Tiananmen Square massacre anniversary. Since then, Li has failed to show up for a scheduled show on Sunday. He's also been scrubbed from search results in China. Definitely the work of the Great Firewall of China. Our journalist and writer Linda Liu certainly seems to think so, saying Beijing is trying to erase the massacre from the history books and that Li Jiaqi may have unwittingly angered Chinese censors. To South Korea now, where Gangnam Style singer Psy is being blasted for using 300 tons of water per show while the country is dealing with drought. The K-pop star had announced that he'll be resuming his concert series titled Summer Swag, where he sprays the audience with water until each fan is drenched. And although the show started back in 2011, fans say the timing is poor because the country has been struggling with a drought since spring. Now, this Twitter user here likens the concerts to Marie Antoinette's infamous "Let Them Eat Cake" and says if drought has been declared in any part of the world, nobody should be using up that much water. And a fish and chip shop in the UK has turned into a strange tourist destination. Now, thousands have flooded to Binley's Mega Chippy in Coventry after a TikToker fashioned a song for the store using the tune for "He's a Jolly Good Fellow." And although the chippy isn't said to be the best, TikTokers sure enjoy filming their visits.
We traveled for hours to visit the famous Binley Mega Chippy. Food looks mega.
Here are the chips.
Binley Mega Chippy, it's an absolute staple here in Coventry.
Binley Mega Chippy! Binley Mega Chippy!
Now let's take a look at the latest updates in tech. Now, will Elon Musk try to abandon buying Twitter and leave his ambitions over the town square behind? Well, the billionaire has yet again threatened to terminate his $44 billion offer for the company. He's saying that the platform is refusing to provide information on the number of bot accounts and that this is a clear material breach of their agreement. At this point, I think we're all aware that Elon is taking that Twitter deal a bit too personally. Now, Apple's annual Worldwide Developers Conference has showcased many new features for its users. The tech giant's latest operating systems comes with tons of quality of life upgrades. A new desktop operating system and even a new MacBook were revealed at the event promoting software developments. Things introduced include a heavily customizable lock screen and an option to edit or recall sent messages on iOS 16, and the iPad is finally getting that weather app. Lock screen and iMessage were trending along with the event's hashtag, further proving netizens' excitement. Tech reporter Mark Gurman poked fun at Twitter by saying Apple beat them to the edit button. YouTuber Oscar Guerra says iOS 16 can break up a lot of relationships. I don't think simply unsending a message can do that, Oscar. It's so nice to be able to control everything with the touch of a button with a handheld device. But what if someone with bad intentions gets a hold of that convenient and extremely precious data of yours? Well, Apple's trying to come up with an answer to that too.
Many people share passwords and access to their devices with their partner. However, in abusive relationships, this can threaten personal safety and make it harder for victims to get help. A new section in settings where you can quickly review and reset the access you've granted others. This lets people in abusive situations quickly revoke an abuser's access to their data and location, enabling them to cut ties and get to safety.
New York has just passed a landmark law that will hopefully impact the way we look at electronic devices everywhere. The Fair Repair Act forces manufacturers to make repair information and equipment available to independent service providers, meaning consumers can choose to fix their devices wherever they want or on their own. Now, there were other laws protecting the right to repair. What makes this one special is that this is the first one that applies to a wider range of electronics. But what is the right to repair and why exactly should you care? Here's an explainer.
If you've ever broken an iPhone, and I'm sure most of you have, you probably know that Apple charges way too much to fix it. Your right to repair is your right to access the parts, tools, and service information that you need to get that done yourself. But companies like Apple are actively working against your right to do that, which is why Americans end up throwing out 416,000 cell phones every single day. The more stuff we throw away, the more stuff we have to make, the more stuff we have to buy, the more stuff ends up in our oceans, the more the planet dies. It's an endless cycle that can't go anywhere but horribly wrong. And it happens with so many things. iPhones, washing machines, gaming consoles, cars, kitchen appliances, tractors. It even happens with ventilators. The companies that make these products build in a break, and then they weaponize intellectual property laws against consumers like you and I to forbid us from fixing our own stuff. Instead, you have to get yourself to a manufacturer-approved repair shop where they may or may not have the parts you actually need to fix your device, and if they do, they'll charge you about $1 million to get it done. Companies have rigged the market against repair, encouraging people to throw out perfectly fixable devices instead of creating a system where reuse is something that's actually valued.
So cat owners like me will know that once they're in your home, it's now their home. But because of their limitations of their height and their lack of thumbs, cats don't get to see each and every corner of their dominion. Well, unaware no more, a TikToker has gone viral for showing her cat places he's probably never seen before in her home. Definitely gonna try that when I get home. And that brings us to the end of today's newsfeed. Bye and see you same time tomorrow.